Hey there, Rivalers. My name is Jared Erikson. I'm a trainer here at Rival Fitness, and we're going to go over the Tuesday trainer tip of the week. So one of the questions I often get asked is, why does my lower back hurt after I do squats? And the answer to that isn't easy, but there's a few different things we can go over with. One, what is your spine doing during the squat? Are you hunched over, or do we have a nice stacked vertebra? So that's one thing we're going to look at. Two, during your squat, what are your hips doing? We need to make sure hips are anteriorly rotated, meaning putting that butt back. All right, so I want to go over what your back is doing and, more importantly, what your whole body is doing during a squat. So the first thing we want to do is go over what a flat back is. This is Natanya Borsch, by the way. She's our lovely assistant. What a flat back is versus an arched back. Go ahead and arch your back. So this was, if you're doing a squat with your back like this, we're loading that pressure right on this curved spine. But when our posture is nice and erect, our vertebrae are stacked, you're able to handle a lot more vertical pressure. So that's why we want to make sure our spine is nice and flat when we're doing this. Next thing we want to do is we want to pull our tummy in, our belly button, into your spine. And what that does is that activates our very deep layer of abdominal muscle, which is called your transverse abdominis. And it acts as the natural weight belt. So we want to make sure that is always engaged. And we do that by pulling that belly button in. So right now, between the spine and the belly button, our body is very rigid, and that's going to create for beautiful squats. So we want our feet just wider than shoulder width apart. So Natanya, I'm going to have you scoot your feet apart a little bit more, and just a smidge more. All right, and then people say, well, ideally we want our toes pointing forward, but not everybody's feet can do that. So if we're squatting down and your knees are bowing out, we want to go ahead and adjust your feet to compensate for that, because if we force the squat with our knees, our toes pointed forward, we're going to end up with injuries either in the knees or the hips. So whatever her comfort level is in a squat, she can rotate her feet out as needed to make the squat more comfortable. And as we continue to squat, we can slowly pull those toes in over time, and that'll adjust everything up and down our entire body. So the next thing we want to do, going on up the chain, so our feet are shoulder width. Then what are our hips doing? Go ahead and face me. During a squat, we want to make sure hips are anteriorly rotated. So that means we're putting that butt back, anteriorly rotating those hips. So notice our hips have rotated back this way. We want to make sure we keep that, because if they were the other way, posteriorly rotated, notice how that takes away from that spine we were talking about, our stacked vertebra. So anteriorly rotating that spine, or those hips, we're keeping that spine nice and flat for maximum vertical pressure. So right here, she's in pretty good posture. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to add the bar right over her head. And we don't want you to be pushing on the bar. We want it to just kind of sit in there. Your arms are hanging out, so wherever they're comfortable. All right, go ahead and demonstrate a squat first, Natanya, engaging your core, making sure that belly button is pulled in. And right on up. So one thing I want to correct on Natanya right away is she did everything perfect, except for she leaned over quite a bit. We want to make sure we look up. And what that's going to do is when we look up, that pulls our entire chest up. So we want chest up, belly button in, and butt back. Let's go ahead and try that again. Perfect. That was very good, and right on up. The key is to keep that chest up and our head up, because the second that chest goes down and head goes down, we lose our spine, our neutral spine. And then one last thing we want to make sure we do on our squat is we want to push through our heels. So when Natanya squats down, the weight is over her heels rather than on her toes. Now, why do we want to do that? There's a couple different reasons. When we're in those toes, we're very quad dominant and we're off balance. But the second we move back into those heels, not only do we engage our glutes a little bit more, we're still using those quads. You're using every single muscle in your leg rather than simply the quads when we're in our toes. Special thanks to our guest Natanya for coming out and helping me demonstrate our squats. And again, I'm Jared. Thanks for tuning in to our Tuesday Trainer Tip of the Week.